For my word story, I wanted to dive into a root word and then see if words containing that root could all be connected in any way. So we have abrupt, which means sudden or unexpected, rupture, the act of breaking or bursting, bankrupt, at the end of one's resources, lacking, corrupt, which is guilty of dishonest practices such as bribery, lacking integrity or crooked, disrupt, which is to cause disorder or turmoil in, interrupt, to cause or make a break in the continuity or uniformity of a course, process, condition, etc. Erupt, to burst forth, and erupt, to break in or burst in suddenly. It's used without an object, and it also means to manifest violent activity or emotion as a group of persons. So none of these really seem to be connected in any way, except for the relatively obvious fact that the word rupt appears in all of these. The word rupt, the root word rupt actually comes from the Latin word rompere, which means to break. This Latin root has Proto-Indo-European roots like rump, which also means to break. This PIE root is also the source of Sanskrit rupya, which means to suffer from a stomachache, which is kind of funny. And Old English is rofen, which means to break or tear. So these words that all have the root word rupt or rompere in them, which means they must all mean to break in some way, right? Let's take a look again. Versions of these words, I use primarily the online etymological dictionary, and I also use the OED. So abrupt is a past participle of abrompere, meaning to break off. As a verb, this means to suddenly break off or sever. As an adjective, which is how it's typically used, it means a sudden, unexpected change of movement or action. Abrupt things normally disturb sets of actions or movements. They break up the norm. Rupture. This word comes from the original form rompere and was originally a medical term, a noun that meant the breaking of an arm or leg, or a fracture. Later, this became a verb meaning to tear, split, or break open, which is kind of similar, but today we don't normally say that we ruptured our arms when we're referring to a broken humerus. When something ruptures, it's been broken open. There's also an obsolete version of rupture in the form of the verb rupt, which just means to rupture, break, or nullify, but no one really uses it that way anymore. Bankrupt is from the form rupta, meaning to break, and this word means in the state of one unable to pay just debts or meet obligations. In Italian in the 1560s, it was bancarotta, which literally meant broken bench, and it referred to a moneylender's bench. So bankruptcy comes from an old custom of figuratively breaking the bench of bankrupts, which is kind of cool. Corrupt is an adjective, and it came from the Latin corrumpere, meaning to destroy or spoil, or to figuratively seduce or bribe. In Old French, it meant unhealthy or uncouth. As a verb, corrupt means to deprave morally or pervert from bad to good. At least that's how we use it today. And this doesn't really seem like it fits with our root of to break, as well as some of the other words. But if we think about a corrupt person changing from good to bad, they break away from good, honorable things in favor of unhealthy, perverse things. So we can kind of connect it that way at least. Disrupt is from the 1560s, and it means to break or burst asunder or to separate forcibly. And it's originally from Latin's disrompere, which meant to break apart, split, shatter, or break to pieces. And a disruption is generally thought of as a break in arranged things, a disturbance in the norm, or a separation in the orderly. Interrupt is from Latin's interrompere, meaning to break apart, break off, or break through. As inter means between, this is a disturbance that comes between two orderly things, like a break in conversation, or a break in a meeting because of a message on a loudspeaker, or a break during a TV show because of commercials. Erupt is from the Latin's erumpere, meaning to break apart, or to break out or burst. This was originally used in the 1650s, referring to diseases from the Latin eruptus, which is kind of funny that we now have two medical terms that used to use the word rupt in them. Now it means that we refer to things like volcanoes. So things are breaking forth or bursting, like volcanoes break forth from the earth, or like we even use it to describe emotions breaking forth from frustrated friends, stuff like that. And then erupt is from Latin's erumpere, meaning to break into. And much like our other words, this is just another disturbance of the normal. Erupt is often confused with erupt, but to erupt is to break into, and to erupt is to break out of. Erupt is used without physical objects and could mean something like when a longing for a past romance breaks back into your present life, stuff like that. So basically, just by changing the form of the root rompere and adding ab, cor, dis, in, inter, or ear, we can change what it means just slightly and get completely different words, which I think is pretty cool. So during my research in the online etymological dictionary, I found an extra related friend of Rumpere, Rupt. This is kind of an unlikely addition to our root family here. Rupt comes from Latin's rupta, which is a past participle of Rumpere, just like bankrupt, which I mentioned earlier. Rupt means a road or path, but rupta originally meant a road opened by force, so we could look at it as a road breaking into a place where it previously hadn't been. All the words together one last time. I've affectionately named them Rumpere's children, since they all stem from the same Latin root and ultimately the same Proto-Indo-European root as well. So here are all our original ones, and there's Rupt at the bottom. That's it for our deep dive into the root word rupt, so thank you for joining me on our trip down Rumpere Lane.